Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second session of the SweetSpot series. In the first one, maybe some of you will remember that we talk about the dynamic pricing. And our aim is to today talk about the psychological pricing. I would like to, mention a little bit why we choose the topic psychological pricing, but I am sure that, on the ongoing session, you will get the, deep understanding. The reason that we pick psychological pricing as a topic is because in pricing engine we cover end to end of the pricing strategy, technical side, but we heard from our customers, from our the leads as well, that they are curious about how they can implement the psychological aspect of the pricing into their pricing strategy. Today here we are with Burc, our CEO and the co-founder. Hi Burc, how are you doing?
Thanks, Turker. I'm doing fine. Just like you said, this was a really, kind of one of the most requested actually topics for our webinar series. So I'm super excited to be joining you today.
Great to hear that. On the coming slides, Burc will lead through you what is psychological pricing and how you can implement. And I'm going to try to give examples on the marketing side. To talk about a little bit, about the pricing. Price is a dynamic price engine and the competitor price monitoring service. We helped, more than 600 customers. Some of are here today with us, and I would like to, warm welcome to them. Burc is our CEO and co-founder. Maybe Burc, you can describe yourself a little bit and take on the lead on the slides.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can also continue with your introduction. So like today, I will be also joined by Turker, our marketing manager, the marketing manager of pricing. So as Turker briefly mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of the company. And so we typically help e-commerce companies of all sizes from all around the world to basically help them automatically track their competitor prices. So this is the first aspect of our software. But also on top of all that intelligence gathered by our engine, we then help those e-commerce companies to automatically change their prices on the fly, thanks to our integrations with e-commerce platforms like Shopify, Magento, etc. So as Turker mentioned in the very beginning, like this psychological pricing topic is, I think, one of the, most interesting aspects of pricing, because typically people find pricing sometimes boring, to be honest. Even though it's actually a huge growth driver, people typically don't really enjoy that phenomenon for some reason. But psychological pricing, believe me, as it's sort of related to social sciences, psychology, etc., I believe you will at least enjoy some of the bits that we will be sharing today. So if I move forward, so firstly, maybe the best way to start is actually to define what is psychological pricing, and in general, what we will be really trying to answer in today's session. So first of all, like I said, it's mostly a behavioral approach to pricing. So basically incorporating some degree of psychology, some degree of science into this like pricing strategy session. So it essentially tries to answer questions that you see over here. So how do we human beings process price information that we encounter, I don't know, on the shelves, in digital shelves like online, or in which ways and to what extent pricing decisions really influence our like behaviors when we purchase something online, or I don't know, in physical stores. And most importantly, and maybe more strategically, how can you really influence your customers in a positive way after learning and understanding more of their psychologies, essentially. So basically these will be the stuff that we will actually try to fill in the coming 20 or 30 minutes or so. So essentially what we really try to demonstrate in the very basic sense is that how we really perceive price. And at the end of the day, to really put things into the most maybe like simplistic way, it's essentially perceived monetary sacrifice. So it's essentially the money that you give away in exchange of, I don't know, a value. And also at the same time, in terms of perception, in terms of how we perceive it, it's also a sign of quality. So it's essentially, balancing both of those perceived monetary sacrifice and sign of quality. Basically, like I said, it's actually a balance, and actually the job of marketers is to shift the focus from the sacrifice part, which is not really super fun. So it's actually changing that understanding of sacrifice towards the indication of quality, because I don't know, it's actually the more I don't know, marketing friendly aspects. And here actually when we are actually not really sure about, for example, the quality of a product that we buy, consciously or unconsciously, we actually essentially focus on the price point first, and then again, probably unconsciously, we then allocate a quality to it. And one interesting study, for example, I have recently read was that even the food we eat or the stuff that we drink actually can change taste in our minds depending on how much we pay. For example, if we bought a very expensive, for example, burger, it is supposed to taste good, right? So maybe we even psychologically convince ourselves. I don't know, Turker, I mean, do we really like behave like that? For example, what's your perspective on that? I mean, where do you stand in that diagram? Yeah.
Especially while I was, preparing this context, I came across, this phenomenon by myself as well. I found myself in a dilemma because I was searching through and I was trying to buy a luggage for myself, but maybe some of our, audience may relate that, luggage price is really high. Like it's like on one end to the other, it's really wide gap. So and because it's not like that, you know a couple of brands that that they are good, but maybe you don't want to spend that much as well to get a price performance on the sweet spot, as in our series name. So I was searching through and I found myself it's better to make a decision based on the price, because more or less that's what you're gonna get on the market, assuming that the market is dynamically arranged itself and it's a working mechanism. So I lost myself into the hands of the Adam Smith, and let's see, I hope that it's gonna turn out pretty well.
Yeah, it sounds good. Fair enough. And I think what you are actually sort of saying is that you at least associated a value into what you were buying. And actually, I think one of the crucial maybe notions that we need to address before we actually dive deep into the subject is value, which is a rather complex notion. And there exist various descriptions of value, but here we are really trying to focus on the perceived value side. And again, we are really trying to bring things into a very simplistic aspect so that we can actually generate really quick and bite-sized, strategies, tests, hypotheses around that. And the way we actually perceive value, the way we define it is actually what is received and what is sacrificed. And there are two sides of this assessment. And if we, for example, take a look at the receivable part, so benefit part, these may really vary. So perceived benefits really vary. For example, some consumers want volume, some customers want quality, and some obviously ease of use. And you can count literally countless benefits. And at the other end, sacrifice doesn't necessarily only mean monetary. So you don't only spend money to get some value out of something, some transaction. So time and effort or various other stuff can be also, exchanged. So value and actually the perceived value in a very simplistic way is actually balancing these two sides of benefits and sacrifices. I think this understanding, this really simplistic understanding is crucial. And if we sort of start to warm up around the psychology of pricing, I think the good starting point would be reference prices, because again, consciously or unconsciously, when we before we really encounter a price point of a product, somehow we have a guess of it. For example, if you go to shopping and if you want to buy a spaghetti or a beer, you would at least have some sense of prices due to your past purchases, due to what you see elsewhere at other shops, or maybe due to other product categories that you see either more valuable or less valuable. So you essentially price some product that you will buy before you really see the actual price point, and those are actually called reference prices. And actually, Turker, maybe I think what we discussed this morning could be quite relevant to that. For example, people typically anchor or maybe calculate those prices depending on some given variables by the merchants. So you just told me the supermarket example. So maybe if you elaborate a bit about that, I think it's sort of a reference price, right?
Exactly. It was pretty interesting to see that usually, just like you mentioned, that you have more or less an idea when you go to store how much you're going to pay for a certain good. But when it comes to the fresh products, like, I don't know, groceries or the apples, let's say, it may depend on the seasonality, the weather, the affected the yield of the farm. So there are pretty much anything that can affect the prices. But for the consumer, it usually, there is this, how can I say, the common phenomena. say that grocery stores are marking up their prices, so because of those grocery stores we are paying so much to the simple food, let's say. That's why to obtain that challenge and to overcome that challenge, one of the grocery stores started to publish their purchasing prices, their markup. So when you go to the the shelf and you try to understand, okay, this is how much I'm supposed to pay, but because of this and this elements I'm gonna pay this price, and you start to think that, okay, there's not much the grocery store can do, and this is kind of a fair price, so that I need to maybe fight with the other side of this extreme pricing. So it was pretty interesting that basically the grocery store owned this issue but solved in a different way by allowing us to see the different layers of the pricing.
Yeah, and I believe this is becoming super relevant in the context of inflation, right? Because people are already starting their shopping with this, actually thought of prices are always skyrocketing, so they are already resistant to any changes of prices. So I think being really transparent about those, being really transparent about the reasoning of that price point they need to pay is actually a good maybe conversion optimization if we speak in our context. So I think people typically, this is also something psychological. I mean, people are totally okay with transparency, even if you are telling them the bad news, rather than actually hiding that news. I think this can even be tied to the psychological pricing side. I mean, transparency is a psychological fact. So if you are transparent with your customer, you actually sort of like convince their psychology, so they actually start transacting with you, they start doing business with you and stuff. I think that's really a meaningful internal maybe reference price. So maybe if we dive deep into a few other aspects that we rounded up when it comes to price perception. So culture is obviously one of them. So depending on the culture that you're actually dealing with and actually the culture you are coming from, your price perception really differs. This might sound interesting, but for example, in individualistic cultures, like people have their own understanding of value. So they really, have their own world in a way. Literally, it's individualistic, and they are actually willing to spend more money to satisfy their right needs. So they are actually not satisfying a need of a group or whatsoever. So they are really fulfilling their needs. And actually, in the collectivistic cultures, the assessment of value sort of comes from the shared value of actually a culture. So it's really hard to differentiate prices for different regions, for different countries in such cultures, for example. So a price is should be the same for various consumer bases, I think, because people really communicate about those values. So those are really transparent. So you cannot really differentiate. You cannot really maybe offer that much of a premium differentiation in such collectivistic cultures, but in individualistic cultures, and typically, I don't know whether this is the right way to really claim or put an hypothesis, but individualistic cultures are typically sort of rich countries in a way. So maybe this can be also tied with that aspect. So people can really spend additional premiums easily, because as long as they see that they have this understanding of value for that premium price that they will be paying for, they are totally okay to do that. But in collectivistic cultures, I mean, people might even fear of being criticized by buying something expensive, because your friend will know about that purchase. They will say that, why did you buy this expensive version? There was this cheaper version and stuff. So this is actually even common in some countries, I know. Another aspect, if we dive deeper, is obviously age. So, and there's actually a sub aspect which is related to age, and it's uncertainty avoidance. For example, older people are more likely to avoid uncertainty, but younger people are actually they have a low uncertainty avoidance. So the last sentence that I just wanted to put here is actually high price is usually perceived as a strong indicator of quality, mostly in low uncertainty avoidance cultures. So, for example, younger people are, like I just said, are typically associate some value, some, I don't know, branding value, etc., to higher prices more than older people. And here, actually, maybe we can wrap this up at the end. But the way we are trying to explain all these is actually just for your consumer bases. Just try to get whatever makes sense for your consumer base. So other aspect is time orientation in the sense of long term and short term. And I believe this can even be related to this older younger generation, older younger people stuff. So long term oriented people are typically more actually price sensitive, if that's the right way to put it. So they tend to look for cheaper deals. They actually expect the maximum value they can get. So they really try to maximize that value. But short-term people are sort of like short-tempered. So they are really willing to spend more for additional premium, convenience, etc. So, these three aspects, if we follow them once again, culture, uncertainty avoidance, and also like age, and time orientation with your audience are really crucial stuff. So Turker, if you have any other aspect to add or maybe any comments, it might be a good time to add them.
I mean, I don't have any comment. You summarized very well, but it made me, question how our customers or how the audience, sees these effects in their shops. I would like to, learn more about that. Please, write on the chat or reach us at the end of this webinar, and I would like to, learn more about whether you experience this phenomena in your shop. Try to differentiate products based on the age or based on the, let's say, the location, and seeing the effect on the prices. So it will be really nice to see the real world examples when it comes to that. And maybe while I am on the mic, I can continue with the second part of the presentation. Here we are gonna discuss more about the pricing with discounting, how we can use discounting as a way of marketing or the promotion, let's say. So discounting has a lot of different aspects that you can use. It's the general idea is not that you should just blindly discount your products to all of your customers, but it's better to segment the customers based on the different criteria of your shop. This can be the average basket size, because average basket size by customer might give you their spending habits and their spending power, purchasing power parity per individual level, or whether they choose discounted purchases or the regular products without being any discount. So that can show you their habit of the spending as well. Type of discounts as well can be a crucial determining the segments of those customers, whether they choose buy one get one, percentage based discounts, absolute dollar discounts, etc. On top of that, whether they buy the certain brands or they have don't have much of a brand preference, but they base their decision on the today's value or how they attain value on those particular products. So that can tell you a lot about your customers, and you can create your email campaigns or any other marketing campaigns based on these findings. So I mean, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the frequency as well. There are lots of studies based on the frequency, the recency, and the monetary value of the customers, and RFM analysis, and they segment your customers. There are so many tools as well in the market that you can find and implement directly, and of course the shopping seasonality affects the the purchases as well. Let's say there are summer products, let's say the bikinis or the swimming suits. Probably they are high selling products when it comes to the summer months. So it's better that you use these segments to identify your customer base and direct your marketing efforts based on their preferences. Like we said in the previous slides, that we are just trying to give you an overall idea, but for here we would like to give you two examples so that you can immediately implement this. For example, the highly price sensitive segments might need to give huge discounts. When you do a huge discount, just target these people, so you don't discourage other people who are not that sensitive to the prices. So for example, for those people who are low price sensitivity, you can create a marketing campaign based on the value that you provide to them, and in which way you can optimize your basically the revenue and generate higher markups on your prices.
Sorry, Turker. I know that we didn't really plan this, but I felt that I could add some value into this. So if we, for example, go back to the slide before this one, I was thinking when you were speaking, there are various data-driven approaches when it comes to discounting, and you can really actually segment your users, let's say depending on their price consciousness. And today's actually session is just about this consciousness, maybe understanding. So these are all reflections of consumer behavior. So these are all reflections of our consumer base. So the reason why I interrupted you was that this morning I had a call with actually a potential pricing user. I believe we will have them on board, because their current pricing strategy is something like a blanket discounting, which I am absolutely against. So they, for example, without considering any price consciousness levels of their consumer base, without really relying on any degree of data, their typical behavior is actually sort of slicing the whole assortment prices on Saturdays for like 20%, 25%. And, you know, this is actually sort of just spraying and praying, and mostly those sprays won't also work. So when you know, strangely, there are tons of strategies that can be applied, and those are all public. I mean, we are now doing this session, people are listening to it, so they can actually grasp those ideas, implement that. But somehow, the majority of the market is still applying this, I don't know, ridiculous blanket discounting, which is, again, slicing all the prices by, I don't know, half, like 25%, 30 discount for the whole assortment, which is leaving a lot of money on the table. Or maybe just, you know, just taking a lot of money from your pocket, not just leaving money on the table. So I sort of wanted to share my frustration against this approach. So if anyone is ever doing that, even after this maybe session where we really try to emphasize that your pricing strategies should be sort of tailored to your consumer base, so you should better understand your customers and, you know, tailor your strategies according to that. If you go after this session and, you know, tomorrow, if you just press you know, change all the price of my assortment and decrease 25%, I'm really sorry for you guys. So I hope you don't be that guy, and you will at least try to get some I don't know, data-driven approach. So I really wanted to emphasize that. So sorry to interrupt you. So take me to the right
No,
slide
not
where
at
you left
all.
off. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're
You're so
welcome.
kind. So as Burç mentioned, you know, you need to specify or personalize the discounts, and it's also important how you communicate those discounts with your customers. So when it comes to, you know, display of the prices, there are, you know, a couple of strategies that you can think of, and it's basically there is no, you know, one size fits all approach. It's just that you need to try and, you know, come up with the, you know, the working one and implement for the, you know, rest of your shop as well. So here we are trying to give you and might give you an idea about how you can do this. For example, there's this technique called differential price framing. Basically, you know, you have two products. One of them is the, you know, superior than the other. So instead of putting a direct price on the superior product, you just say, you know, $10 more, or let's say, you know, $100 more, whatever. It's just that, you know, it shows the, you know, the customer that, you know, it's not, let's say, $2,000, but it's just, you know, $100 more price. So it's more, customers might be more inclined to buy those, you know, the premium products because of this this framing effect. There's also another, you know, the counterpart of this strategy is the basically, you know, inclusive price framing, that you show the, you know, prices of the products directly without, you know, interfering the customer's decision making process. This can work especially on the, you know, tech savvy, let's say, the, you know, specific kind of, you know, customers who they know what they are looking for and what they expect. So like we said, you know, it's better that, you know, you test these strategies and implement in your store. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with this subject as well, but it's also important that, you know, it's also important that you know which products you show with which the other ones. So let's say, you know, you show the certain type of the computers, it's better to, you know, test again your assortment or your category listings, so that, you know, you can optimize the conversion levels or the add to cart levels as well. Other type of, you know, the strategies can be, you know, focusing on the more of the messaging part. Let's say, you know, more affordable products, instead of, you know, describing the every little detail of that, you know, the affordable product, you can focus on the, you know, the, let's say, the color, the package size, the quality of the package, because more or less the customers know that, you know, they are gonna get the similar value out of any other product in the market. But when it comes to expensive products, it's better that you play the customers, you know, the feelings, instead of the, you know, little details, the specs about the product. And, you know, here we see the iMac as well. You know, I'm sure, you know, in the market it's known as that, you know, they are the, you know, best computers, and they feel good, to be honest, to, you know, to have one of these. I don't know, Burç, is there anything that you would like to add?
No. I was just smiling because I believe it's a perfect choice of an expensive product, because I think IMX are like nowadays ridiculously expensive. So yeah, good choice of an image. That's what I was just going to say.
But it feels good and it gives the
Yeah,
value, I
yeah. I
believe.
mean, directly, my mind directly went to the website of Apple. I think in these value-based pricing like sessions, psychological pricing sessions, I think Apple always comes up as a case, and I think they are doing like this job really pretty well. Like you said, I mean, they are not really trying to break down every single technical detail of their computers, but they are really rather putting really shiny, nicey photographs of those computers from the edge, from the rear, and all that. So I think those are really, just like you said, I mean, they are just really satisfying our feelings rather than actually satisfying our minds, maybe, in a way. So that's a totally brilliant choice of an image for an expensive product.
Exactly. So other, techniques could be like, using anchors for your pricing. Actually, this is, pretty common and well-known strategy, but it's important that, you don't abuse the shoppers, because with the, price comparison sites everywhere, like, or their, inner perception of the prices, customers probably, understand the difference between the, the variants, so that, they might feel offended or even, stop, shopping from you guys. So it's important that you use this strategically and with a in an honor code, let's say.
Mhm.
And when it comes to price anchors, I believe we have a specific feature in our product as well. Maybe
Yeah,
Burç, you would like
true,
to
true.
mention
Like
that.
good point. Actually, you are absolutely right. So, by the way, this absolutely came from our customers' feedbacks. So they were actually requesting us to also be capable of changing those strike-through prices on web shops. So they are actually willing not to just to change the selling price, but they also wanted to adjust their anchor prices automatically by looking at our competitor pricing engine. So this really brought me to the conclusion that price anchors really work. So people are even really trying to manage them. So not even using them actually doesn't make sense at all. So when you are really doing any sort of like discounts, etc., I think those anchor prices really make sense, and actually they are also a good conversion optimization maybe tactic.
Thank you. So, like we were, emphasizing that one of the important that important thing that we would like you to get from this, the webinar, is that you should always test your, pricing strategy. There is no, one size fits all strategy. So it's always important that, you test your the strategy. If you fail, reframe your hypothesis and, test again. And if you get a success, you can always implement that, strategy into the other parts of your shops. I mean, even 95% of customers are more likely to shop from stores that remember their preferences and other relevant deals. This shows the importance of the, the personalization. And there's also, other aspects of the, the pricing when it comes to, the pricing strategies. There's also the experience. Like we mentioned, the Apple, it gives us the, the experience. That's what we value when we try to buy the iMac or the, iPhone, any other Apple product. So it's really important that, you give the full, like, positive experience to your customers, so that you can uh, you will have a room to play with your prices, increase or decrease, so that you understand the, the sweet spot of the pricing and your customer base. But like we said, the blanket strategies or the, white discounts can be also like harmful to your business, because they may undermine the pursuit quality of the present preferences of your brand as well. Like if you always give like 80% discount, 90% discounts, people might start thinking that, your product doesn't give that much of a, value to the customers. But there's also the, the other side of this strategy, that if you give, more frequent and smaller discounts, this may end up, telling customers, okay, wait for a couple of days, months, let's say, and you will get a discounted price. That may delay their purchase decision, and you may even lose, business too, because of this strategy. Burç, do you have any, addition to?
Yeah, like I think as we are approaching Black Friday, Cyber Monday, etc., I think deep discounts might also make in some cases, because they are, after all, a marketing strategy. But again, just like you said, I mean, they don't necessarily need to be across the board. I mean, they don't necessarily need to be for the whole assortment. But obviously, what we see is that people, shoppers, I mean, People really love to, see those 90% discount for this range, that range, and stuff. So I think there is also a time for deep discounts. But I am more of a more frequent and smaller discount guy. So I know it also, keeps your customer waiting for the discounts all the time. They sort of only shop when there's a discount. But I think what's missing there is that, discounts is just they are actually just one side of this price management spectrum. So you can also, like, if you have enough data in hand. So now I'm actually talking from a product side. So if you also have some degree of competitive intelligence, when you already collect those competitive prices, while you're also maybe changing your price downwards, you can also identify ways to change your prices upwards depending on your competitors' moves. So I think with the more frequent approach, I am referring to this continuous price management approach, where you have some degree of competitive intelligence automation, pricing management automation, so that you don't necessarily only offer discounts when it comes to changing your prices, but you might also find some price increase opportunities. And at the end of the day, these minuses, which are discounts, and pluses, which are potential price increases, will definitely help your bottom line and both top line. I love to say discounting or pricing. Yeah. Pricing is more like a marathon rather than these sprints in the case of Black Friday, Cyber Mondays. Discounts are not only the subject of those special days, but price management is actually 365 days, maybe 724. So I think if people really start to manage pricing in that notion, in that understanding, there will be direct cash results, visible for them.
I need to admit that it's impressive that lots of customers are waiting huge discounts on the Black Friday, or the after Cyber Monday. It's amazing how the tech giants, let's say, shape the customer base in that way. And now there are certain periods that people wait to get discounted prices. And in coming months we are gonna do the special SweetSpot series for the Black Friday. So tune in for the coming strategies. And before we finish the webinar, as we mentioned, we would like to give you the idea that you can immediately implement, test, iterate, and improve in your shop. So we would like to mention a couple of strategies that you can start using starting from tomorrow. One of them is the decoy effect. I'm sure this is little bit familiar with the anchor pricing as well, that you put 3 products based on their prices. You price in a way that the most expensive product seems really affordable, and on a performance price comparison, really meaningful product. There's another strategy that is called odd pricing. It's basically pricing like $17.99 or $15.99. I'm sure you are so familiar with the fact that you see prices with ending with 99. Even at pricing, we have a built-in let's say feature that you can basically pick, and our pricing calculation ends up with the odd pricing, let's say 99. Burc, maybe you can articulate a little bit more. That's all.
Absolutely explain. So this was also a direct customer feedback, because when you apply sort of a rule-based engine or AI-based engine, it comes up with this sweet spot of the price. So it might be 37.97, and people don't really want to have this 97, and they are totally okay to increase their prices for 2 cents. So people started to request us to have this flexibility on top of our dynamic pricing engine. So it goes after this optimal price point first of all, and then it rounds up the price according to those odd pricing requirements, like requests from the customer. You're absolutely right. So we have an app for that in a way.
And like opposite of odd pricing, you can talk about the rounded prices as well. It's sort of let's say you have a product priced based like $9 or the $9.5, but instead of this the odd pricing strategy, you can just put a $10 price, and it's really attractive for the impulsive buyers, because basically they might just think that, okay, what the hell, I'm just gonna buy it. It's just, you know, $10. It's particularly works for the, you know, the impulsive shoppers, and let's say, you know, more of a, you know, cheap products. And there are other strategies as well, like free giveaways, buy one get one free promotions. This is a lot better than the, you know, direct discounts, because, you know, it also helps you decrease your inventory while you are promoting your shop. And the last one of our, you know, strategy is the using distinctive forms to present price information. This can be again like the anchor pricing, you know, striking through the old price so that the, you know, the new price looks a little bit attractive. You can also use other different colors, or the, let's say, give tilting price images, so that, you know, you attract the customers' attention and give a little bit a sense of the, you know, urgency on the purchasing journey. So I
By
mean,
the
with
way,
this,
Türker, sorry, but you know, let's not just skip this rounded price part, because like you said, for the old pricing, you know, what we also received as a secondary feedback. So we had this feature implemented, and we actually let our users to round up their price to 99, 95. And then we also received the request of rounding them to 00, rather than just having any decimal points. So this was also the secondary implementation we had. So I think, you know, depending on, like you said, depending on the assortment you are retailing, you know, one of those strategies could be better for your price points, to create, again, trust with your customer base, to really cater to their, I don't know, souls, feelings, etc. I think that this is an actually important pricing optimization strategy. So some automation around that, I believe, makes absolute sense. So this is my final comment today.
absolutely. I mean, thank you so much for being with us today. We try to explain a little bit about, you know, psychological pricing and how you can use in your store. Feel free to ask your question. We would like to, you know, hear those as well. And if you have any comments or the use cases that you implemented and got a great success, we would like to hear those too. Thanks again. Thank you, Burc.
Yeah, let me have my final comment, Türker. So maybe to emphasize one thing after we round up. So by saying psychological pricing, we really try to actually, you know, encourage merchants, encourage e-commerce companies to better understand their customers after all. So, you know, when you put things into a, I don't know, shiny, sexy, interesting phrase, it might sound, I think, unfamiliar. But after all, we are really here, you know, claiming this very simplistic business understanding, which is understanding your customers. So understanding their psychology, understanding how they purchase. And then obviously pricing is one piece of this marketing puzzle, just like your other marketing strategy. So regarding, you know, seeing pricing as part of your marketing puzzle would then directly link this customer understanding, and actually it will hopefully provide positive outcomes. So I really don't want to look like guys who are talking about a special subject. We are really, you know, in a simplistic way, after all, if we speak really down to earth, we are really trying to encourage people to better understand their customer base, where they are coming from, their age, all that segmentation, like you said, RFM analysis and stuff. And after that, you know, price points are easy to come up, obviously, if you have some automation, let's say.
Perfect. Thanks again. We will be sharing the recording of this webinar with all of you guys. You can, if you don't have questions right now, you can always, you know, direct those to us as well. Thanks again for, you know, listening to us today, and have a nice weekend.
Maybe if we have some questions, so it would be, you know, we are sort of wrapping this up in 2 minutes or so, as we are nearing to the end of time. Last tactics part. Yeah, you're welcome, Chris. So we just actually thought that maybe adding some tactics would make sense. Yeah, Chris, go ahead with your question, please. So maybe we can, you know, keep this slide open.
Yeah.
Trying multiple discounts could be confusing for customers. What do you think about that? So, Marta, are you referring to the very same products? So are you trying to, you know, say that you will have multiple discounts on a particular product, or, you know, are you talking about applying multiple discounts across your assortment? So, you know, this product will have 25%, the other one will have 30%. I mean, sorry that you can't speak, but you can only type. But if you can clarify that real quick, that would really work for us. But maybe if, yeah, you're typing. So if you were not going to type, I was going to answer both, but if you will type, yeah, let's go. And in the meantime, Chris might also, shoot his question. Yeah, but I think multiple, I think, multiple discounts on a product is actually sort of good, I would say, in the sense that the discount, regardless of its amount, would be, I don't know, it would be perceived higher. So if you, for example, have 10%, 10%, and then 20%, I think it might, in a way, feel or maybe be sensed by more than 50%. This is something that I have heard of. But while you are actually getting extra increased customer conversion, maybe with that actually feeling, you might also lose some of that conversion due to the complexity. So if you are dealing with some clients who are really trying to come down to the simple terms of their prices, so this might actually complicate the buying journey. They might actually end up with some frustration to really see the final price, and they might actually not convert. But I think it really depends on the balance between those two sides. So like I said, it might be perceived higher than the actual statistical, mathematical discount amount that you would apply afterwards. But also due to the complexity, people might prefer, more down to earth, more simplistic discounts. So I think, like Turker said, and actually like the title said, testing would be the best, I guess.
I agree. In a couple of years ago, I was working with a Dutch travel agency, and their target audience was mostly retired people who are not so tech savvy, but they were trying to sell their travel packages direct online. So when it comes to their website, they were extremely clear. I love their style, to be honest. That's something that I was looking for in other websites. Maybe my soul is a little bit old as well, but they were extremely direct. Like no, let's say BS, direct prices, no, direct promotion. If there's any promotion, it's clearly shown and described. So maybe based on your customer base, it's smart to choose one of those two strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bogdan also has another question, which I have heard quite a few times, I would say. So what will be the first steps in personalizing discounts based on the consumer behavior? As you said in the beginning, not to put everything on sale for a couple of days. So what we meant by personalization is sort of depending on what we both mentioned, is that when you segment your consumers in a way, you can identify which of them converts better when you have a discount, or which of them really converts regardless of the discount. So when you have this identification, so again, in the most simplistic terms, if you can put your whole consumer base into two categories as the price sensitive ones, and maybe the other category can be the non-price sensitive ones, you can actually use some email marketing automation, SMS automation to first of all, market any discounts that you do on those products, so that you won't actually have the conversion from those non-price sensitive ones who would still buy that product from the full price. So you actually don't generate additional traffic for those guys who would buy from you otherwise. Or the alternatives, the more modern, I mean, as you said, the first steps, the following steps could be using tools like, I don't know, which can do, or maybe you can develop this yourself, where you send custom coupon codes depending on your consumer segment. So you will always have the full price listed on your web shop, but you will be sending those coupons to those actually price sensitive guys, so that you will still keep the full price for the non-price sensitive ones, but for the price sensitive ones, you will be doing your marketing via SMS or email to that segment, so that you will have some positive top line, bottom line growth. So after all, again, the primary aspect is actually better understanding your customers, which means better segmenting them in regards to their pricing behavior. And after that, actually, just you can either only communicate with the price sensitive ones with the discounted price, or you can keep the full price and only communicate with the price sensitive ones via coupons.
My 2 cent advice would be, I think the easiest to implement would be, to distinguish customers based on their purchase history, whether they buy the certain products, certain brands over and over again, or let's say in the shampoo category, they tend to buy the shampoo with the highest promotion. So the first step could be distinguishing them and offering the discounts to the second group, instead of the first group who buy only certain shampoo brand. that could be the, I guess, the the easiest to implement and the first step to the personalization. You don't even have to mention their names, or you don't have to collect that much of a data, because probably you already have the the purchasing history. Maybe that can be a good start.
Yeah, I think Chris' question is quite interesting, and I mean this is something that we have been addressing in the previous sessions as well. So I would call Chris those. Maybe I should read the question first. Sorry. What do you guys really think about odd price text? I mean, he's coming from another angle when it comes to odd stuff. So he means huge unreal discounts for certain products that we encounter on some web shops. So is it really a good way to capture visitors' attention? He says some of my competitors apply it, but I'm not sure using this tactic, because he says that it actually has an negative effect on that. So I think those products are typically, Chris, regarded as loss leaders in the retail terminology, as you probably also know. So I think it all boils down to simplistic math. So let's say you have those loss leaders where you are totally okay to offer huge unreal discounts in your own terms. And let's say you will be making $100 of loss out of every single click, every single sale that you make for that product. So I think you need to calculate to both sides of things. So if you are making, an okay degree of loss from those loss leaders, and if that additional traffic generated thanks to these loss leaders are actually making, good enough, I would say, good enough additional revenue in the coming 12 months, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years time, then in economical terms, you're actually not making any loss. So I would say trying to really capture that traffic that you generate on those loss leaders. So all those purchases for those loss leaders should be really, captured well. So you should be really communicating with them. You should be really applying, marketing strategies to that segment, to that additional segment that you generate. And after that, if they, again, make those additional purchases, yeah, that would work. But I again am not a fan of that. So if I would pick sides, I mean, instead of, again, using those loss leaders to generate that one-time shocking traffic, I would rather, if you are totally okay to generate some loss, I would rather, recommend you to really, apply something like everyday low prices strategy, which will actually, create that image in your consumer base. So they will visit your website all the time by at least not knowing, but thinking that the prices that they will see on your website will be cheap or more affordable. So I think I would say doing this loss leader thing is sort of a sprint, if I refer to what I just said. But applying this continuous pricing management where you continuously deliver competitive price is more like a marathon. And I think retail, needless to discuss, is a marathon. So I would rather recommend you to apply this continuous strategy.
Before Chris's question, there was another question by Chris Edelman. He says, "Hey guys, thank you for the great presentation. About the disadvantage of the psychological pricing, do you think psychological pricing would make customers feel like they are being manipulated?"
Yeah, good question. I also have an answer to that. So I think it also depends on your customer base, Chris. So, for example, what we have read, while we were preparing this presentation, was that it also depends on your consumer base whether you should be actually convincing them via odd pricing with those prices ending with 99. For example, there was a research which I cannot cite now or refer now, but it was saying that, for example, if you are dealing with a tech-savvy, smart maybe audience, which would be actually pissed off when they see all those 99, 90 odd pricings, you should, consciously maybe alter those 99s like 79 cents, 78 cents, or whatsoever. So, this is also sort of a counter psychological strategy, but I think it's really smart. So, again, you will be understanding your customer base, actually satisfying their minds. But I think applying those calculated looking price points could be the best way to get through that manipulation feeling in your customer base. So this is also interesting. So I think it really depends on your consumer base again. And it also sort of, you can guess your consumer base via the products you are retailing. So if you are, for example, selling laptops like Turker's example, I would expect a customer base which is mostly tech savvy, really after qualifications of the product, all those qualities and stuff. So I would rather not apply odd pricing in that segment, but rather maybe a currency calculated price as if it's sort of imported from elsewhere. So you just add a certain harsh markup on that. So you come up with the price point of, I don't know, 273.52. So I think this is also a psychological pricing, which is not really looking like a psychological pricing strategy.
I mean, I may add that, as long as you give the value that you promise to the customers, I don't think there is any manipulation. That's what we were trying to, explain as well, when it comes to, how customers see the prices, because it's basically they attain value to the product and they, expect some benefits at the, at the price of a, that product. So if you keep your promise on that particular, the product, I don't think that, they would feel manipulated, because that's what they were, expecting to get in the first place anyways.
And I think Katarina also has a question. Maybe you were just going to read that. So Katarina is asking about our opinion about the use of color in price points. So I have read also, Katarina, various actually stuff about this color, and I'm not just going to now come back to you and quote that green signifies discounts, red is bad and stuff. So I'm not going to compare green and red, but maybe more actually strategically and tactically, I could say that people really prefer consistency on product pages. So maybe if your branding is using light blue, or maybe if it's using like a really, I don't know, shady yellow, so I would rather use that color code, which is actually consistent with your brand, also at the price point, so that they will actually see this more associated to the product they are buying. So pricing shouldn't create an additional decision point for the customers, because after all, it's already a big consideration point. So you don't necessarily need to highlight that price unnecessarily more than you should. So, just using those shiny different colors, if I just say you that, okay, always use green for your prices, but your website is, for example, I don't know, purple, then, this green will really shine, or maybe in a bad way, shine next to that purple branding. So I would rather use, some purples, blacks, some neutral colors like black and white, and your own branding, so that you will keep your product page consistent. So you don't need to actually, put your customer into the burden of dealing with another decision point, which is really highlighted, if that's the right way to put it. I hope this helps. Yeah. I mean, this is also true. But again, I mean, in the data-driven, you are welcome. In e-commerce context, I believe any sort of color-related actually superiority is weaker than this consistency aspect. So, I mean, while you are maybe trying to optimize this color relevancy, you might lose this consistency. Those will actually, at the end of the day, cause some decrease in conversion. That's what I mean. Yeah. Thank you, Katarina. But great question. Thank you. And thank you for everyone writing. Thanks for the presentation, top-notch presentation. Pleasure to hear that you guys all enjoyed it. And like Turker said, we will be sharing the presentation afterwards.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great day or evening, depending on where you are living.
Yeah,
Take care.
Stay safe. Bye-bye, guys.